Southington Town Council meeting Monday, January 27th. Madam Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Jennifer Klock.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo. Here. William Dietzick.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Tony Morrison.
Yeah.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, and if everybody can please stand for the prayer and the flag salute.
Heavenly Father, may we consider the people of Southington and always render what is right and just for our citizens. Help us to be compassionate and caring for each individual while still seeking what is appropriate for the entire community. Give us wisdom and guidance. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everybody can remain standing for 1 minute, please. So we have some guests here, friends and family of Mike Domian. And the first item on our agenda for number 2 is to have a citation for Mike for his service. So before we sit down and discuss that, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Mike. So if everybody can just please bow their heads. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so item number 2, the presentation of the citation for Michael Domian. It's my pleasure to be able to have everybody here this evening to celebrate the life of Mike and the service that Mike has given to the Southington community in various ways. I see here with us some of Mike's family and some of his closest friends, some people who served on boards and town committees, and some who maybe were on the other side of the aisle at the time that Mike served as well, which is a testament to the type of person that Mike was. I knew Mike when I first started getting involved in planning and zoning a number of years ago, and had the great pleasure of seeing him in action and knowing that he was a family man, a compassionate person, somebody who was humble, and was always somebody that you could trust to give an honest opinion, never got worked up about things, never played politics, and always did the right thing for the community, which is the reason why I thought it was such a nice opportunity to commemorate Mike and his life here and his service with the citation. So before I do that, what I'd like to do is just open it up for the council members to say a few words about Mike, if anybody had the pleasure to know him. I know it's been a little while since Mike served. He was the president and the vice president of the Water Board, the Water Commission here in town, which for those of you who don't know, is an independently run and operated entity in the town of Southington. Not part of the Southington town government. It's run completely independently, and so, there's a lot of responsibility when you're the president or the vice president of that board that goes with the operations of the water department. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to a couple other people who will say some things. But is there anybody on the dais who would like to say anything?
Mr. Chair, I've
please.
The pleasure of knowing the Domians for a long time. Mike's a good guy. Everything you said, I think you very eloquently put it. Very nice guy, never played politics, good group of friends, tight, close-knit group of friends. We were Facebook friends, and I'd live vicariously through the fun they had. I'd see them, out and at the beach or out to dinner with the Masellis. Just a nice guy, and just a sad loss.
Thank you, Mike. Val, please.
Mr. Chair, just briefly, I did not know Mike that well, heard of him, but I know Mary Lou and Mary Lou, your mom, Bee, who was good friends with my dad. So I just want to offer my condolences, and I'm really proud that we're doing this citation for Mike.
And I see also here we have the water department management team, past managers. I see past water commission chair people and presidents. So there's a lot of support here that's sitting in the audience that maybe others can't see. I'll invite Mr. Berkmos to come on up and maybe say a few words, please.
Thank you, Paul. Again, Bob Berkmos, Commissioner for the Southern Board of Water. My condolences to his family and his friends. Mike, I got to know Mike on the Water Commission, obviously, and I really, really enjoyed working with Mike Domian. He was a great guy. Not only was he a great guy, but I loved the conversations that we had, the problems and the solutions that we came up with for the water department. But not only was he a good conversationalist, he was also a good listener. And the issues, and that's, I think, what we get elected for, so we could listen to the entire board, come up with the best solution, and go forward for the department. I know his heart was with the water department, always wanting to make sure that the Southington Water Department was not only it's the water department, but the ratepayers, the citizens of Southington and the town of Southington, always trying to make the water department better. Always recognized that this town of Southington was growing, and we had to be one step ahead of the infrastructure to make sure that we were able to do our job as elected officials. So again, a great guy, a great listener. I think we've got a lot of things accomplished with Mike. I really, really enjoyed working with him. He's a great loss to his family and friends, but he is also a great loss to the water department and the town of Southington. You had a great husband, you had a great father, and you had a great friend. So again, he is missed. I was so surprised when I heard that he passed. It broke my heart, and I'm sure it broke the heart of most people here in Southington. So again, thank you, and thank you for setting this up. I think it's a great tribute to Mike. He was a great guy. Again, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Berkmos. Is there anybody else who wants to come on up? Sure.
Bill Casarella, good friend of Mike. He was commissioner of the board, water commissioners. Obviously, I worked there as a superintendent for quite a few years. So I knew the personal side of Mike. He wasn't political at all. He was a fun guy. And before I go on, my condolences to Mary Lou and the family. I've been talking to Mike ever since he got sick the first time. So even though he was not working for the water department or with the board, we stayed in touch quite a bit. He sold my son his first house. He fished, he golfed, he loved life. And some of the things over the years, his first sickness, and then he developed cancer, I remember talking to him probably for a good hour one day, and Mike was very vibrant. He spoke like nothing bothered him, like it didn't bother him. And I just had to say, Mike, you're dying of cancer, Mike. I says, how do you do this? How do you keep positive like this? And he said to me, he says, I'm not gonna sulk. I don't know how long I have to live. He says, I'm gonna enjoy each day as I can with my family and friends. So, very personable guy. I remember one time asking him how he, I asked him how he was dealing with it, and he said, why am I different than anybody else? He says, kids die of cancer every day. And he says, why am I different? This is an honest conversation. We texted each other. He texted me probably a week before he passed away, and he said, Billy, have a happy and healthy new year. And that was the last I heard of him. Great guy, fun-loving guy, always smiling, always joyful, always positive. So that's why people that don't know him, we're missing a great guy. That's all I could say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Really nice words. Is there anybody else who would like to come up and say anything before we read the citation? Anybody on the dais? Okay. So to Mary Lou, Zach, and Shane, thank you so much for sharing Mike with us. It's not easy. I see a lot of people in this room actually who have given back to the town in various ways on boards or commissions or running for elected position. And, Mary Lou and your kids, you know that it takes time. And it takes time away from the family. And so none of the positions are paid. They're all volunteer positions in town. And so we thank you for sharing Mike with us and giving us an opportunity to know Mike a little bit and to enjoy the person that he was. So with that, I'm going to read the town council citation that I'm going to be giving to you. It says, Town Council citation in memory of Michael Domian, whereas the town of Southington recognizes the importance of honoring individuals who have demonstrated exceptional commitment and benevolence to our community. And whereas Mike Domian served the town of Southington with integrity and dedication as an elected member of the Board of Water Commissioners for more than 10 years, fulfilling his duties with distinction and vigilance in the capacity of both president and vice president of the Water Board. And whereas Mike's caring and compassionate spirit and gentlemanly demeanor extended far beyond his official roles as he devoted countless hours volunteering for and spearheading initiatives that brought joy and community building to our town, including his tireless efforts to bring an ice skating rink venue to multiple locations in Southington so that residents could once again enjoy this recreational pastime. And whereas Mike Domian's devotion, generosity, and genuine concern for others left an indelible mark on our community in a myriad of ways, and thus inspired all who knew him to give selflessly and humbly for the common good. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Southington honors and celebrates the life, contributions, and legacy of Michael Domian, expressing our heartfelt gratitude for his service and extending our deepest condolences to his family and loved ones during this time of loss. Be it further resolved that this citation shall serve as a lasting tribute to Mike Domian, whose memory and selflessness will forever remain in the hearts of the Southington community, signed by myself, the town of Southington, on this 27th day, January 2025. And Mary Lou, I'm going to give this to you, and I'd like to also ask you, Zach, and Shane to receive a Town of Southington pin that that elected officials wear to please have for keepsake. Okay. If there's no other comments, then we're going to move on to before we move on to item 5, did we want to take a short recess for 5 minutes to allow anybody who wants to leave can leave, and in case you don't feel like staying for the rest of the business meeting? We'll take a 5-minute recess, okay?
Don, you don't want to stick around?
For time's sake.
Because I think Christmas is
So you can spill it. Okay. Okay, it is 7:19, and we are back in session. We are moving on to item number 3. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the Town Council meeting January 13th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Chris and a second from Mike. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes 9-0. Item 4, councilperson communications. Val?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just have two things. I just wanted to talk about the MLK celebration that was yesterday at the First Baptist Church. I just wanted to thank Reverend Sharon Holt for continuing to have that celebration every year. The church's Martin Luther King Committee, they just do a great job every year. They've had that continuously for a number of years. They recognize 2 middle school students. They usually have a really great speaker. It was our Secretary of State, Stephanie Thomas, this year. And they just, most importantly, they do a wonderful job of honoring Martin Luther King legacy. So it's really just a nice event. So I just wanted to thank them. And I also wanted to mention that Live Well is going to have another screening of the film Human Forever. So that screening will be Monday, February 10th, 4:15 to 6:30 p.m. at the Resilient Living Center at Live Well. So this is all part of the Dementia Positive Southington initiative that's going on. And they'll continue, I think, to have screenings, but I had said that I would try to keep us up to date on when more screenings are going to be for that film. So if you need any information on it, just let me know, and I'll get you information on that. Okay?
Is there a time, Val, for that?
Yeah, 4:15 to 6:30.
Excellent. Thank you, Val.
Is that a meeting night? That's May 10th? I mean, I'm
May
sorry,
10th.
February 10th.
I think it's a meeting day.
Yeah.
So if we keep our agenda light, we may be able to attend and then run out. So we'll
No,
take a
it's
look.
before it's 4:15 to 6:30.
Right. What I'm saying is if we have a light agenda that day, because I think it's a meeting night for us.
Right.
So if we have a light agenda, maybe we can do the viewing and then run here.
then come here.
Exactly. Just in time. Anything else, Val?
No, that's it.
Okay, anybody else? Chris?
Yeah, I got a couple things. I also had the pleasure of attending the MLK celebration yesterday with Val, and I echo all your feedback. It was fantastic, as usual. Just a little shout out of the 2 students. As Val mentioned, they do recognize a student from Kennedy Middle School and a student from DePaulo Middle School. So I'd like to share their names. Ekam Singh is the student from Kennedy Middle School that was honored, and Vidaihi Patel was the student from DePaulo Middle School that was honored. They also, the pastor also goes to the school and recognizes them in front of their peers too. So it spreads that message to our youth as well. So that's great. Couple other quick things. I received correspondence from members of the Calendar House. Again, so I'm going to ask the town manager if you could look into the lunch program again. At one point, they had limited the amount of people they would take. Then they increased it again. They're back to limiting it again. It's RW Solutions that's running that lunch program.
So there's been some additional, some of the council members, I don't know if they want to chime in, I'm not going to say who, but have asked for that, and I've given a lot of information to them, so I will forward that information over to you. There's,
That would be great. But whatever we can do for our seniors, I think it would be beneficial. And like I said, if you could look into it, that would be great. And any information you have, I would appreciate. I had the pleasure of attending the Board of Ed budget workshops. Paul, I think you were there both nights, and Mike, I think you were there one night as well. Just a great way to get an overview into the budget. As we're building our budget, it's very helpful to know what's going into, what's going to be ultimately presented to us, and ultimately we're going to have to vote on. So, again, that's very helpful. There will be future budget workshops put on by the Board of Finance and public hearings, so I'd encourage the public to get involved in that as well. And finally, in fact, she may still be out there, Dawn Maselli is, through Unico, organizing once again a Valentine's Day gift bags for $100. The gift bags include a $50 gift card to New Mill, $25 gift card to Anthony Jacks, 2 bottles of wine, Italian and assorted chocolate candies, and a rose as well. So you can order those gift cards online if you go to southingtonunico.org. Once again, southingtonunico.org. If you're interested in purchasing those gift bags, Unico does donate that money back to the community for different charity events. So just wanted to give a shout out to them as well.
Thanks, Chris.
Welcome.
Anybody else?
Mr.
Jack.
Chair, thank you. So I have 2 quick things. I've had some constituents continuously ask me, what the town's ultimate plan or goal is with the Bank of America property, and I was just wondering at what point we could obviously add it to our agenda to discuss that, so that the public knows what the town's next steps, if any, are with that piece of property.
Okay, yeah, we can,
Talk about it right now.
yeah, probably it's a month or so, right?
So I met on site with the chairman, our engineering department, and the broker who we've been speaking with after the 3 proposals came in. The engineering department is going to be doing some lot line proposal revisions to shrink the lot size down as small as possible within the zoning regulations, so the town doesn't need to get a variance. At that point, we expect it to go on the market, and that should be, our goal is by the end of February, the absolute latest, hopefully 30 days from this past Friday.
So I guess my position on that is I think it's appropriate that, we obviously talk about it in the public's eye about where we all stand on that, and obviously take the appropriate action as the council for the piece of property is just listed for sale at a dollar amount. I think it's important that this council discusses that topic, because this is not a small item, and it's not every day the town is selling property. And, I get the brokerage, but I personally feel that this is something that, we should prepare a document, publish it, and then even set a reserve amount and allow it to be open and transparent in the public's eye and not go through a brokerage personally. So I would love to have that conversation on the dais at some point. And then another quick item is, I know that this council, I didn't support it then, I still don't support it. I would love to re-talk about the cell phone policy. I get, we shouldn't be making calls on the dais, but, our cell phones are our way of life. It's how we conduct business in the private world as well as council members. And I just think that it's just not appropriate to say that we can't use cell phones. We get these Chromebooks, they're $250 Chromebooks, and they're horrible to use and navigate. They're not the easiest. And I have a lot of notes, documents, all sorts of stuff, and I'm constantly printing stuff out before the council meetings to try to be as prepared as possible. But a lot of the info is on there. And also wanted to talk about the repercussions of anyone that is using the cell phone, how that's going to be handled, and what the repercussions are if somebody uses their cell phone on the council dais. So I don't know if that's a town manager, town attorney answer, but I'm just looking at, also the repercussions that if we violate that rule to conduct business, what is the repercussions of a council member?
I can answer as town attorney that I don't know that there are any defined repercussions or penalty associated with it. I believe it was, I'm going back probably a year ago or thereabouts, the council as a whole voted on that. I don't think there's any penalty component to it.
Okay.
I can't speak for the council, but maybe the town manager knows more than I do in that regard.
The rules, I believe, were by the prior, I don't know if they're the prior chairman, Triano, or Mr. Chaplinsky.
It's not a back and forth.
And it was voted on, the first organizational meeting of every council term, the meeting rules are voted on, and that was incorporated into the last set, or the one before that, council rules. It's for the council to police themselves.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Any other councilperson communications? Okay, I think it's important, it's important to maintain decorum in these council meetings. We all know on this council that there are people who attend these meetings and people who are not in the meetings, and there's text messages flying regularly during these meetings in the past, and it needs to come to a stop. We cannot have ex parte communications between people who are not in this meeting and the people who are on this dais. It's inappropriate. And so until a new council comes and a new council votes on rules of engagement of this council, I think we have to abide by our rules. We have to pay attention to what's going on here, not receive text messages. And I understand that some people may need to do some advanced preparation for materials. If there's anything that the town manager can do to help you with that, by giving you maybe a shared folder that you can have access to, because everybody has a Chromebook. So if you want a shared folder, so if you have stuff on your phone that you would like to take a snapshot of, send it to your shared folder. I'm sure the town manager can work with the IT team to give you your own special folder that you can log into prior to the meeting that only you can have access to and that you can see. And we'd be happy to make those accommodations for you. Okay, so anybody else with council person communications before we go forward? All right, I'd like to wish everybody a happy MLK Day this past month. It was great to hear the updates from the council members who were able to attend the celebration here at the church, the Baptist Church locally. Chris mentioned we did attend the Board of Education meetings. It looks like the Board of Ed is passing along at least to the Board of Finance a 6.4% increase over last year. We are eagerly waiting the town manager's proposal to follow soon, so more to come on that. I had the pleasure of, last time I updated everybody that I had met with all of the shifts of the career firefighters. I had the opportunity to meet with Company 2 volunteer firefighters to talk a little bit about how things are going with the volunteers in town, which was a really nice opportunity to have an open and frank dialogue. And I will do the same with Company 1 in another week or so, which will round out my meeting with all of the firefighters, career and volunteer, to really understand some of their perspectives, some of the things that are going good, some of the issues that they face and the challenges. And I know the Fire Commission has put forward a committee to look at a go-forward strategy for staffing and what it's going to take to get there. So hopefully we'll see in the next month or so some output at the Fire Commission from there. As everybody knows, the fire department is managed by the Fire Commission, so it is not managed by the town council. And so it's a completely separate entity. So we'll look forward to hearing their recommendations and how the town council and maybe the Board of Finance might be able to support in the future. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Del Santo, who's going to just open the discussion on the resolution for legislative action, item A, to eliminate public benefits charges on electric bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was included in our packet sent out last Friday. I'm sure everyone had an opportunity to take a look at it. So I'm not going to read the entire resolution because it'll be part of the record after tonight, but we all received it. But essentially, it's a resolution calling for Connecticut State legislative action to eliminate public benefit charges on electric bills to consumers and fix systemic electric rates. All in all, the resolution says, be it resolved that the Town Council hereby expresses its strong support for Connecticut Senate Bill 598, proposed by Senator Rob Sampson, which aims to eliminate the public benefit charges on electric bills to consumers and to further implement the 6-point The Consumers First Act to drive out systemic issues causing high electric rates for our citizens. So I have those 6 points listed. I'm not sure, Mr. Chair, if you wanted to read those into the record.
Sure, do you want to do that?
Sure, yeah,
They're
sure.
brief.
The first one is eliminate public benefits charge off the bills, cap the price of all future long-term energy purchases, redefine the definition of Class 1 renewable energy to include nuclear and hydropower, separate Pura from DEEP, eliminate eliminate programs that increase electrical demand, including the electric vehicle rebate program, and then increase the supply of natural gas. Those are the 6 topics. I know there's been lots of discussion, either constituents emailing us or through social media asking what the town of Southington could do to stop this public benefits charges on our electric bills. I know a lot of folks are in a state of shock after getting their electric bills over the last couple of weeks. So I think this is a good step forward to let the state of Connecticut know that Southington is aware of what's going on and we're not happy about it. I don't know if anything's going to come of this, but I still think it's important that they know where we stand on this issue.
Okay, so we've introduced, does anybody, I think the last time we read one of these resolutions at length, we got some feedback that reading these things at length is not necessary, just a little summary of it, but does anybody feel as though we need to read it at length? We will have this up under old business after public communications, where we will take it up and discuss it in more detail and vote on it. I'll just say, as a follow-up to the introduction of the resolution, that, you know, we recognize that the town of Southington doesn't set electric rates. We recognize that we don't govern PURA. What we do know is that we are being asked regularly about electric rates. And it's happening in a formal way, it's happening in an informal way, it's happening on social media, and we're living it too. So we are not immune to what's going on with electric rates. And so, you know, just like we did in the past, before the public benefits charges were implemented, this council stood against the charges, like public benefits. When PURA was considering and the governor was considering signing this, we stood against it and we signed a resolution last year asking the legislature not to do it. And we asked them to use the funding that they had in ARPA funds to wipe out the COVID era non-payments from people who didn't make their payments. You know, recognizing that's not all that goes into public benefits, but it is controllable, and the legislature can do something about it. And so that's why we're standing here asking and standing up for the residents of Southington to put this forward. Again, we will debate this a little bit later on in the meeting. That's the intro, and unless anybody feels otherwise, we'll move on to item 5, report of special committees. And Mr. Town Manager, I know we have the chairwoman of the Ethics Board here, and I did have a chance to speak with her before the meeting, and she is, Patricia Johnson has agreed to come give the update under your section as allowed by the Ethics Board. And Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am honored. I'm the chair of the Southington Board of Ethics. My name is Patricia Johnson. I live at 49 Brookview Place in Plantsville. And the Board of Ethics generally is charged to meet on the third Wednesday of January every year, whether or not there are any complaints. And the members of the Board of Ethics are myself, Anthony D'Angelo, William Palmieri, Edward Malchik, and Brian Zaccanino, and Brian Callahan. And in fact, we have had 2 complaints recently. However, and let me read you from the minutes what the end result was. The complaints were dismissed in executive session with prejudice, as the complaint did not allege facts sufficient to constitute a violation of the Southington Code of Ethics. And that is, in fact, a surprise to us that there have been 2 complaints recently, because I've been on this board for a few years now, and there have been no complaints for years, and now there are. And I don't, I'm glad we have this opportunity to clear the air, and thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to serve the people of Southington. If there are no other, any questions?
Any questions that are allowed to be asked?
Thank you.
We want to thank you for your service. You know, the Ethics Board is not one that people, maybe they don't have the full view or understanding of, but my understanding is that, you know, typically the board is comprised of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And
That is
so
correct.
in order for a complaint to materialize and be voted in favor of, one must convince, you know, at least one of the other party to vote. And so it helps to bring that neutral perspective to the ethics process. So thank you for serving, and thank you for your many years of service on the Board of Education as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Item B, Mr. Town, I'm sorry, report of special committees, strike committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a meeting on, January 21st, which was last Tuesday. There was an opportunity for a STEEP grant, Small Town Economic Assistance Program. So Mr. Perillo asked to convene the strike committee so he can give us some ideas as to if we were to receive the STEEP grant this year, which is $1 million, which is a nice one because typically they're $500,000, but this one was for $1 million. So we have a couple of projects that may be ripe for the STEEP grant at this time, and the board unanimously chose to continue the work being done on West Queen Street. So Mr. Perillo is going to be applying for the STEEP grant, and hopefully we'll get it. Be able to complete some projects. Wonderful. That's all I have. Any questions?
Just a quick, so just give a little bit more.
Sure.
Like when's the deadline for the?
Quick. That's why we
application?
I want to say the first week of February. So we're going to go ahead and send it in. It's probably already done. It's been about a week, so Lou's pretty good on these things.
And then when
They
will we
happen
find
quick.
out?
May take a couple of months to figure out, and they're hoping by either early summer or the end of summer to receive it. You know, and they may have another one too. So we are kind of getting our ducks in a row for other ones, because we're going to apply for every one of these that come out, because we do have some issues in town that may need some correction, and we could use the assistance of some state money to help us.
So for this one, will it be referencing the West Queen Street
Right.
work?
Yes. Yep. Some of the other ones, Val, you're very familiar with, the West Pines Drive,
Right.
Spring Street,
Yep.
which is a lot more money, but that's going to need a lot more preparation, to say the least, because there's a lot of moving parts on that with property owners and the town ball fields. So Councilman Palmera and I actually spoke at the meeting that if anything should happen, we're going to pregame it. So when the next STEEP grant comes along, all the parties involved know that it's coming, even though there's nothing, etched in stone, but it could be a potential next issue coming.
Right.
Because there are property owners that were asking for some land swaps and straightening of roads, and it's going to be very, very expensive.
Right.
But we also want to make sure that if the next STEEP grant opportunity comes up, and we only have 3 weeks to come up with a plan to make it happen, we want to make sure our ducks in a row going forward.
Okay, thank you. And is it up to $1 million?
This is up to $1 million. Yeah.
So we could possibly get less than $1 million?
Correct.
Right, to help. Okay.
Correct, yep.
All right.
And it has to be a shovel-ready project.
Right.
That's what they're asking for.
Okay.
So
All right,
that's why we're
thank you.
looking ahead.
Yeah.
We're pre-gaming the next couple coming up.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay. Any other questions on the strike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I would just like to add, I really feel passionately that we got to get the Spring Street thing squared away. And so I just asked the town manager, I'd like to get a plan in place that the relevant committees in this board can review. As Mike said, we have some stakeholder management to do. But, we have a number of accidents at the intersection of West and Spring. And before things change with the land there, we have to start to take some action. So I'd like to make that a priority for us here in this first quarter to please start to prepare what it's going to take, maybe the first 2 quarters. What's it going to take to get that done? What land is possibly needed to be acquired? Who do we need to talk to? Who are the stakeholders? And we begin that process, please. Okay. Item C, self-insurance.
Okay, yeah, well,
Mr. Morrison.
Yeah, this will be pretty quick. The meeting we had to discuss where we were with our claims for this year and obviously next year for the budget. We didn't make any changes to next year's budget, which is good so far. We have a couple of months to make those changes. If we have to, we probably won't be. The information in front of us says we probably won't be cutting down what we think it would be, but we certainly won't be hopefully increasing it. So level pegging at the moment.
Sounds good. Anything else from your side, Jack, on self-insurance?
I was away, so I did not make that meeting.
Fair. Okay, anybody have questions about self-insurance? Okay, thank you, Tony. Item 6, Town Manager's Report and Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, I want to update the council and the public and the building department. I know a lot of you call me quite often and want to know what's the status. So we've got a lot of new faces there. Just wanted to give you some facts as to where we were, where we're at now, and where we're going. So the start of the year, the beginning of January 2025, our plan review, that's when you submitted an application for building permit and you're waiting to actually get it issued to start, was about 12 weeks out. It was totally unacceptable, outside the Connecticut General Statutes guidance, which is 30 days. As of now, we are 4 to 6 weeks out, so we've cut that down in about half. We're still not happy with it, but we are 50% better than we were about a month ago. Within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we fully intend and expect to hit that 30-day mark and be within full compliance of the state of Connecticut. I will say we are not the only town that is outside of the 30-day window. A lot of the surrounding communities are. We do have 3 new building officials who are working for us. We also have the Plainville building official. Plainville has a 4-day work week. So the Plainville building official has been kind enough to come work on Fridays on his day off for us. And he's been doing that for about a month now, and he's continued to do it for as long as we need it. So thank you for the town of Plainville. Thank you for helping us out there. And we are still looking for 1 additional full-time building official for inspections and for plan review. So please, if you know anybody who has them or wants the job, come talk to us. We do have some signing bonuses and some retention bonuses that I've authorized, which no other job in Southington has ever had on the town side. We're taking it very, very, very seriously. Our folks are working late, they're working overtime, they're working weekends. It's my priority to make sure that we get this building department back to where it should be and where it's really serving the residents and they're getting what they're paying for.
Yes, you all done? Can I open it up for questions?
You can.
Please.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Town Manager, I don't want to talk too much about, bills that are proposed from the legislature, but as we are aware, essentially there's a bill that would allow the privatization to some extent of inspections, correct, for residential inspections?
There's been a bill every session that's been brought up recent that I'm aware of. I have sent it to the entire town council, the one that was proposed in 2023. Yep.
Correct.
So, but my concern with that proposal was that the former building official opposed that legislation on town letterhead, is that correct?
That is correct.
So can we make sure that that doesn't happen again, since, we're essentially the town policymakers where, that's a policy decision. So, I think that's across the board. I don't think town officials in their official capacity should be making, taking positions on bills, but specifically that, where, I think we would have all agreed, one of the ways to remedy a timeline issue would be get outside help. So we're good on that, right?
We are, and all my department heads and my staff know that within their professional capacity with the town of Southington, nobody should be issuing any political opinions one way or the other. They're free to do so. The First Amendment rights allow them to as private citizens. But yeah, town of Southington doesn't, all positions go through me and the town council.
Any other questions about building?
Yes,
Jack.
thank you. Mr. Town Manager, are they working towards helping streamline some of the more simple permits? Like, I had a constituent reach out about a pre-engineered shed and having to take forever in winter, coming along. They were concerned on that. Are they working towards trying to streamline some of those more simple permits?
Great question. We have a new, Margaret Conable is one of our new building officials, and the new acting building official has tasked her with going through sheds, windows, sidings, and roofs, because those are all kind of generic, where they're just required to check the box for 4 or 5 different things. And they've gone through most of the backlog. In the past, there were some requirements for pre-engineered sheds, like the sheds you get from Home Depot, Lowe's, Clotter Farms. They're all the same sheds every single time. It's the same cut sheet. So we know if we've seen one cut sheet, we've seen them all. All we need to confirm on those now is, are they being adequately braced to the ground? But yeah, the requirements for those really simple things have been streamlined and fast-tracked.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else on building? Okay, hearing none, I just wanted to add, I wanted to say thanks to the town manager, because I know that this has been an area of focus for quite some time, since you started. just about 9 months ago or 10 months ago, or whatever it is, 7 months ago. I want to thank you for the focus that you're putting on this, and also the focus, you know, I know you have quite a new leadership team, so thank you for all that you're doing in trying to take the leadership and the organization into a customer-friendly organization. Customers meaning the residents. We are here to serve the residents in all that we do. And so as the new department heads come in, I think you're instilling that with them, which I think is wonderful. I wanted to thank the building department because I see, you know, I see a bit of freshness there, and I appreciate the fact that they're really working hard to bring things down into acceptable turnaround times. I know it's not easy, so if they are watching, I wanted to say thank you to all of those who are doing the inspections and the plan reviews, and then all the support staff that's also on the front lines when people are walking into the office. It's not easy, and it's not easy when you're behind the 8 ball too. And we're behind the 8 ball. So people tend to be a little bit aggravated when they come in. You know, people's tempers flare a little bit. Everybody's trying to get to, you know, their permits quickly. And I think that, I think the new team is recognizing some areas that need to be improved. Their focus right now is on clearing the backlog quickly and addressing some of the low-hanging fruit, as Jack mentioned. And then the long term, once they get caught up and they're within the statutes, looking at continuous improvement. I heard some feedback from you, Mr. Town Manager, where you said that there's some ideas about how to kind of gang inspection types on a specific site instead of having, you know, multiple people come with different inspections. You do them all at once. So I know that there's a lot of good ideas. I know it's not easy to get to them right now, but I'm hoping by mid-year the backlog will be done, new ideas will be in place, new processes, new tools, and some digitalization maybe even coming down the pipe. So further than we already are today. So thank you.
Welcome.
Any other updates, Mr. Town Manager?
That is all I had.
Thank you. Town Attorney's Report, number 7.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Town
Mr.
Attorney.
Chair. I, last week, received some correspondence inviting the town to participate in a class action lawsuit. If anyone followed the news as it relates to medical costs, in particular insulin, the insulin has increased over 500% in the last 10 years, while the actual cost of producing insulin has decreased by more than 40%. So there are a series of municipalities throughout the country that have participated, and it's called an MDL, but it's essentially a class action lawsuit. The law firm chose Southington to invite in. I don't know the reasoning for that. I know some other area towns were chosen as well. I spoke with the town manager about this. There does not appear to be any downside. In fact, if anything, the attorney's fees are reduced from the norm of being 33% to 28%, and the town would only be responsible to pay any fees or costs if money were recovered for the town. I know this is not an action item. I don't know that it's necessary to be an action item, but I wanted to advise the council of this invitation and get any feedback that any of the members had.
Any questions on the class action lawsuit?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please.
So if we participate in this class action lawsuit and funds were given to the town, where would those funds go?
That I don't know. It would not be in my purview to determine that. That would be, I assume, the Board of Finance and the town manager's responsibility to determine that.
They go into the general fund.
Okay. Any other questions? So to the town attorney, do you need to send this to us for a review? Do we need to put it on an agenda to approve it? Is there?
I don't believe so.
No?
I think it's administrative, I just wanted to make sure the town council was aware of it, number one. And number two, if they had any questions, I could answer them now.
Okay.
Otherwise, absent objection, I will go ahead and enroll the town in this action.
Jack?
Yes, so I guess if this comes to fruition, I'd like to come back to the council and discuss it. I don't, say going in the general fund. I think we need to get a little bit more creative and make sure that, those that were affected by the high costs that are struggling, to pay their bills or mortgages or reverse mortgages so that they could afford their medicine, we come up with something that kind of helps alleviate that for them.
Well, my best guess is, just based on past experience, that that's years away. And I would, even though it's not relevant for me to comment, I would concur with you in that regard. No settlement would be made without the council's approval, and one would think, or logic would dictate, that that would be one of the criteria that would be discussed before a settlement were reached. But my best guess is you'll have gray hair before we reach that level.
Yeah, and I think, so, yeah, I think whatever council's in place when this decision is made will have a crack at taking, I mean, ultimately, it'll probably go into the general fund and then be dispersed appropriately based on the council's decision at that time.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Town Attorney?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, we will open up item number 8, public communications. We'll take anybody who would like to come up and talk tonight. We will give up to 5 minutes for any person living in the town of Southington or working in the town of Southington to come on up and speak for 5 minutes. Just to set some expectations for those who haven't spoke before, the council will be here to listen. We generally are not going to have a back and forth conversation, but we're here to listen, hear any concerns or praise that you have or things that you'd like us to pay attention to. Take that in, and we consider that for future activity. Please come on up. Just state your name and address for the record as you start.
Sure. My name is Dan LaMontagne. I'm a principal architect, owner of a design group right here in Southington. I'm in the Factory Square building. I'm actually a Wolcott resident, so sorry about that.
It's okay.
but I do pay property taxes for my business.
You don't have to apologize for
All right, 5 minutes. I actually came to talk about public benefits. I saw you coming in, but I don't know what Southington can do for it. I have a question, quickly, if you don't mind answering it. When does it cease to exist? Has that been defined by the state of Connecticut?
We're going to discuss that a little bit later.
Okay, no problem.
It's the current public benefits charges that everybody's talking about ends at the end of April, heading into
I thought
May.
it said something about April. Either way, I do realize in the last year I paid $1,139.71 in public benefits, of which $291.95 was on my last bill. That's 29% of my bill was the public benefits. When it first was implemented, 7%, 8%, and then it shot up. So I was going to talk about that, but you're going to do what you could do. I don't know who's going to listen in the state of Connecticut. I do know that in about 2007, U.S. Representative Barney Frank said to Maria Bartiromo, I think, something to the effect of, we need to spend money now. This is 2007. We know what happened then. We need to spend money now, but I do believe that we will find rich people to tax down the road to pay for it. So that's a horrible way of thinking about taxes. I remember that. I had to look it up right before going to Councilman Perry's point of an iPhone. You're talking, I go, oh, I gotta look. They're sort of vital to the discussion sometimes, so I'm with you on that. Okay, forget about Barney Frank. So as you move forward with tax policy or whatever you have to say, please think about not kicking the can down the road, and think about how to pay for it now, and if you can't pay for it, don't do it. Second thing, I'm an architect. I worked with, I see electrical contractor out here. We got some good people in Southington. You have I didn't even realize this. Again, Councilman Perry brought up the Bank of America property. If you're selling it, great. Please do something good with it architecturally. We have been designing and putting up depressing buildings for at least 60, 70 years now. As architects, we do our best, but cost is always the issue. Please, when you have the time, and you had a chance with the library, when you have the time, please think about the architecture. And I don't say put blind trust in the architect. We can get it wrong. But if it costs a little more, I think it's figure out a way to produce good architecture in Southington, and I'll bring this to Wolcott, by the way, too, so we'll talk about that. The third thing, and Mr. Chair, I'm hoping I'm running out of time. I wasn't even here to talk about this, but I get calls daily, maybe weekly at least, for building permits. I get people that don't want to spend money with construction documents because Southington's building department would ask for certain things. Too much for certain jobs. It's not that they were wrong. The previous or whomever, I don't want to get involved in any politics with that, but however that went down, they're not asking they're asking for too much because they're not using their common sense in what is required. And this is anybody that's in the building department in any town. If, when a resident applies for a building permit and they get something wrong with the documents they submitted because maybe they drew them themselves, and the building department is citing chapter 1 of the building code, that's when you know you're almost like citing the preamble to the Constitution to talk about constitutional items. And I see that often when it comes to my office, when I have a panicked person saying, I put this much money in, I want to open up X business right here on wherever, on Center Street, let's say. Can you help? Now, I don't do that work, but I try to help Southington because I'm a Southington business owner. I try my best to help, but sometimes I can't fit them in my schedule and I'm trying to pass them to people. The point is, if the building department is citing chapter 1, they've already failed. Cite the actual reason why. And there are provisions in the existing building code, of which we have many existing buildings, that are minimal in nature compared to the International Building Code, which we use, the Connecticut State Code, that requires a lot more. I don't know if I'm out of time, Mr. Chair, but.
The clerk will let you know.
Okay.
You'll get the gong.
Oh, there you go.
5 seconds.
Oh, 5 seconds? Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks for your feedback. Always appreciated. Okay. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Bill Lutz. I live at 165 Greystone Drive in Plantsville. I'm here tonight to ask you to not approve the resolution supporting the Senator Sampson's bill for several reasons, 3 actually. First one, this legislative session is barely 2 weeks old. The public benefits portion of your electric bill and electric bill in general is going to be a very strong focus in this legislative session. To 2 weeks in, decide this is what we want to support when we don't have any idea of what's going to be coming down the road next month, 6 weeks, 2 months from now. I think is a little bit like a child who goes to Walmart with his mom and dad a couple of weeks before his birthday, and they say, pick out a toy. And he picks the first bright, shiny toy that he sees. 2 weeks later, they're wandering through Walmart again and sees one that's a little brighter and a little shinier, but he's already made his decision. I think we should wait, deliberate, see what's out there, and then make a decision on what's the best bill to support. Second reason is that this bill doesn't save any money at all. And I don't think I don't know if people understand that. Eversource is going to get paid their money. The multi-billion-dollar corporation that owns Millstone is going to get paid their money. Remember, 77% of this public benefits, is due to the subsidization of a multi-billion-dollar energy corporation, which back in 2017 said to the state of Connecticut, if you want Millstone to stay open, you have to guarantee us a certain amount of electricity that you'll buy. And we said to Eversource, that's what you're going to do. And if you spend too much on Millstone Energy, you will get reimbursed. And they get reimbursed from the ratepayers. This doesn't change any of that. But the most important reason, I think, to reject this bill is that it is, in fact, a blueprint for legislators or legislature who wants to subsidize a corporation and hide it. These folks are here today. You've been getting call after call after call about the public benefits bill because it's right in your Eversource bill. You see it. It's transparent. This bill, this proposed bill, would pull it out of that bill and bury it in the state budget. It would be one line in a 2,000 or 3,000 page document. No one would ever find it. No one here would be here complaining about it because they wouldn't know about it. The fact that it's actually in the bill gives people the sense, oh, what's going on here? If it's not in the bill, if it's buried in the budget, we don't know that it's there, but we're still going to pay for it. Because Eversource and the company that owns Millstone, they're going to get their money. And they're going to get their money from us. And they're either going to get their money from us through bill or buried in the budget, which we also pay for. So I think transparency is crucial here. And transparency is not served by burying this cost in a 2,000 or 3,000 page budget. Transparency is best served by having people able to see that every month when they open their bill. And then they call you. If this weren't in the Eversource bill, you wouldn't have gotten any calls because no one would have known it was there. It would have been buried in the state budget. Now, I know you guys guys and women have a lot of work to do, and I'm going to end now, and thank you for your time. Very often I disagree with a lot of what some of you stand for, but that's okay. I appreciate your service. I've sat at a dais like this in the past. It is sometimes a thankless job, but it's a job that we, the citizens of Southington, need you to do, and we appreciate you doing it. Thank you for your time, thank you for your service, and I hope you take my comments under advisement.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Lutz. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Going once, twice? Al, you look like you want to come on up. No. All right, we will close public communications. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on to item 9, old business. Action A, action on resolution for legislative action to eliminate public benefits charges on electric bills. I'm looking for a motion and then discussion after we have motion and second.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the legislative action to eliminate public benefits charges on the electric bills.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Morrison. Let's open up for discussion. Please, for the motioner, you get to go first.
You know, I've discussed a lot with Mr. Lutz over the past 10 years. This is the first time I've ever laid eyes on him. So first time I've ever seen him in 10 years. I had no idea what he looked like. He could have been in my house and I wouldn't know it. But it's funny. We've had a lot of good times. But anyway, a lot of the things he said make sense. Okay? They make sense. We should wait. We know what's coming. The bills are not going down. They're not going down. Okay? And I get what he's saying. If we complain about it, they may take it and bury it. Listen, I saw bills on one of these social media pages to ban this whole project. From last year to this year, bills are doubling. Last year, $392. This year, same month, $950. And in that public benefit is $280. I mean, it's bananas. Okay? I have solar panels. Okay, one of the parts of these 6 items is to, stop getting benefits from solar panels. And I saved a little bit of money 6 or 7 years ago. My bill was insane because solar panels are not so good when there's no sun. In August it was $14. This month I almost had a heart attack. I thought I was connected to my neighbor. So, withstanding Mr. Lutz's comments, I understand what he's trying to say. Let's wait. Let's see what happens. These bills are not going down, okay? And I want to say there has to be some transparency. There's no way they can bury these $290 additional charge. There's no way, because people will go nuts. Last year at this time, my bill was $400. Now it's $800. How come? And they're going to have to tell you anyway. Well, there's a public benefit in there. We used to have it on the bill, but we don't anymore because Southington wrote us a letter, and now we're going to bury it. I don't buy it. So that's it, Mr. Chair, for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilwoman Clark.
Oh, just a couple comments about why this is so important, because yes, as a resident, it's really hard to sit there and look at your bill and think of a way that you're gonna pay for it. But if I'm also a business owner in Southington or Connecticut, I'm getting hit twice. And if I rent, guess what's gonna happen to my rent if electric's included? It's gonna go up. There's ripple effects. It's not just a simple bill. It has consequences, and that's why it's so important for us to make a statement.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clark. Anybody else?
You want to go, Tony?
Yeah, off to you, Bill.
Just taking a different spin at it as I was thinking about this. I mean, I think everyone agrees on both sides of the aisle that we essentially have an affordability crisis of housing. I mean, you just look at the breakdown of the variables that impact it, from your interest rate costs to inventory and the price you're paying for a house. Well, but then there's the hidden costs of home ownership. And one of the huge hidden costs of home ownership, which isn't really even underwritten by a lender, is your utility costs. You know, when you apply for a mortgage, you're going to say, okay, what are the taxes? What's the insurance? But no one's talking about the utility costs. And I just feel like this problem has to be addressed in some form or fashion. And I think both sides of the aisle agree that, you know, housing affordability is important, but the biggest culprit of, you know, that silent impact on your affordability is your utility bill. So just coming at it from a different perspective, it seems like something's off here. You know, as a society, we need to fix this problem. So if it starts with resolutions like this, I'm willing to support it, because at least it's doing something towards that goal. But I think we have a major problem on our hands as a society.
Thank you. Tony, before I recognize you, I'd like to give an opportunity to Val, Chris, or Jack, if anybody would like to say anything.
No, Tony,
Sure.
you can go.
Val.
Is that okay? Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would just like to say that I have looked at my bill the last few months, brought a copy of it, and yes, it's difficult. It's difficult to see this and to know that on my end, it's 28% that we're paying, you know, to these to the public benefits. So I started to really look into this, and I have to say, it is an extremely important issue, the affordability, the fairness, the transparency, I agree, extremely important. The other thing is it's a very complex issue. When you really start to get into it and really start to dive deeper into this, the public benefits that piece is made up of a lot of different components. I understand about 77% of it is the millstone. The other 23% is broken up into 3 different categories. It's some renewable energy initiatives, it's a conservation and load management factor, which gets a little bit complicated. And then on our bill, there's also federally mandated monies that we are paying. So I started to look a little deeper into what are the other legislators in our state doing. And I pulled up the Energy and Technology Committee bill record. So just as Mr. Lutz said, it's the beginning of the year. And just in this short time, as of today, there's been 150 proposed bills, whether from the Senate or the House, that were filed with the Energy and Technology Committee. I went through just randomly, just took some time and highlighted and looked at the titles of some of these bills. Over 20 of these bills specifically mention the combined benefit charge. So there's a lot of bills that are there. There's a lot of legislators that are concerned about this. It is an issue, and Mike, I agree 100% with you. It's an issue. It's an issue for our residents. We need to do what we can to help our residents. And so I feel we're jumping the gun a bit. I understand what Mr. Lutz is saying. There's going to be these bills are just going to committee right now. They have a whole process that they have to go through to see what bills might even come out of this committee. Public hearings, more substantive memos about these bills and what these bills entail. And so when I look at the resolution, the other piece that I see in the resolution, and Mike, you went through it, the 6-point Consumers First Act, that was a Republican-led, so the Connecticut Republicans, that's their plan, and it's a good plan. You know, I see it as a good plan. However, the Democrats have a plan, and they call that, I believe, the Ratepayers First Act. And that plan has some of the very same language. So when I look at the resolution, if we as a council want to make a statement to the legislature, I don't feel that it makes sense to be singling out one bill or one plan. Let's make our statement. I can agree with a lot of what is in this resolution, but I don't want to single out, you know, one bill, one plan. We don't know where, that's what Mr. Letts is saying too. We don't know where that's going because there's a ton of work that's being done on this with both sides of the aisle. And I think it's a perfect opportunity for us as a council to, in a bipartisan manner, to have a resolution that's going to, you know, our governor and our entire delegation with a lot of the points that are here. And I think that rather than, that's my objection to the resolution, is I don't want to be singling out, you know, one plan, one bill out of so many bills that, you know, there could be a bill that comes out that we would want to maybe have gotten behind. So,
Thank you, Bill.
thank you.
Anybody else? Tony?
Yeah, I would disagree with that last point in the sense that this is a very simple bill. It doesn't have many words. It just says, get rid of it, move it over to the state budget. That's pretty much it. So making a statement like that, which is a statement of clarity, I think is always great when you're dealing with legislation. Because if you have so many bills, okay, and they go to committee and they talk and they talk and they talk, and eventually something compromise, you know, gets turfed out, okay? That's not what we want here. We want a very simple way of addressing serious issues. Now, the resolution also says, and it does mention, as Val pointed out, a 6-point plan. It just happens to be a Republican one, but it does have very clear, you know, again, very clear points, which it says, because our problem in this state is not going to be fixed by this, obviously. It's not going to be fixed even by some of the stuff in the plan. But when you have a mountain, you chip away at it. Our real problem is the fact that our energy costs are the second highest in the nation, and they're to do a lot of what they're to do with is the fact that we don't have enough energy production that's cheap in our own state, and we have to rely on it elsewhere. And the second thing is, what we really want is 24/7 basic power. And that is only provided at this point in this state by nuclear power, Millstone, and by natural gas plants. That's it. And that's 95% of the power that's produced in this state, okay, from our power stations. Okay? Now, what the state legislature has been doing over the last few years is to water down that by saying that we can move to transitory power, i.e. power that cannot be guaranteed for 24/7. And that's what's called green power, renewables, whatever you want to call it. In this state, that means wind and solar. That wind and solar does not provide basic power. It's add-ons. It's not the basic power. And the basic power can only be provided by the two things I mentioned. Or you want to build coal stations, you can do that too. We close down our coal stations. So what we need to do is to move towards, you know, a bit at a time, to get to the point where people realize that, you know, that we have to do things very differently. And I think this is a great first step. Now, in terms of what this bill is, sorry, this resolution is, the state has 4 sets of programs that are public benefits, okay? The first is we need to purchase high-priced clean energy because we want to further the state's zero-carbon goals. You know, we have, what we're saying is, in 5-10 years, we'll be net zero, which means essentially, if we want to get to that point, we'd all be living in mud huts, okay? It's an unrealistic thing to do because hydrocarbons are in everything we do, okay? All the clothes you wear, you know, not just the power, but everything you do, it's there. It's an unrealistic goal. And the state is moving towards that unrealistic goal, and it's trying to do it with things like this, where it says, you know, we insist that you purchase much higher prices of electricity because we're going after renewables, which are higher priced than natural gas and nuclear. Secondly, we're subsidizing residential electric vehicle charging stations. We're subsidizing people's consumer choices, right? Which is not the role of the state at all, okay? You let the market decide that. We don't subsidize this kind of stuff, and that's what we're doing. And again, it's in the name of maybe if we get more people in electric cars, they'll use more, quote, clean energy. That's the reasoning behind it. The Dominion nuclear power arrangement, yeah. That caps what we can, caps the amount from Millstone at 5 cents per kilowatt hour. If that's above natural gas, obviously, we get a benefit, and that happened up until about 2022. In 2022, natural gas prices went up. Okay, it reversed, and that's what we're seeing today. Now, the last one, helping to pay bills of low-income utility customers who can't afford the state's high rate. Okay, those last two, I think we can all agree with. If we didn't have that Millstone agreement, okay, we would not have guaranteed basic 24/7 power in this state today. Okay, that's what that agreement did. So those two things, I have no problem with putting them over to the state budget. The other two things, put them over, eliminate them. Because when you have to get a state budget, it's $26 billion. Choices are going to have to be made. And certain things are going to have to be eliminated. And this is some of the things that will be eliminated from the state budget if we push it over. And so that's why I would like to see this passed as a first definitive step to move us towards sanity with our electricity prices.
Thank you, Councilman Morrison. Anybody else before we move on the motion? Chris?
Yeah, just to comment on a couple things mentioned tonight. First of all, we've heard it a couple times, diving a little deeper to the cause of the public benefits portion of our bill. Mr. Lutz brought it up originally, 77% is due to the bailout from Millstone. Again, that was back in 2017. But the other percent is from assistance programs that were created under a bipartisan Take Back or GRID Act, and also from the utilities recovering from the shutdown moratorium enacted by the governor during the COVID pandemic. So I agree with the governor's intent to make sure that families, especially during the pandemic, did not lose power. I think it should have been mean tested. There should have been some form of policing who benefited from that. The moratorium seemed to have run a little bit too long. It's still in, and obviously the COVID pandemic we've been recovered from for quite a while. With that being said, it's my understanding that bills are going to drop in April due to the back payments and the moratorium coming due from the public benefits portion of the bill. So we know right now that should lower the bills in April. So that's something that's already put in place. This legislature began its session on January 8th, and they are looking at it. As Val mentioned, there's 150 bills. I don't understand why we're focusing on one in particular. I'm curious, I don't know if anyone knows how many energy bills Senator Sampson has introduced it, became law? Does anyone? Okay. I believe it is none, but I don't want to mislead if I'm wrong, but I'd encourage people to check to see how many energy bills have been introduced by him, became law. I do feel it's a little misleading for the council to pass this resolution when, again, the plan already was the moratorium is ending in April. So then what happens? The next steps are people that have deferred their payments are going to be responsible for making these payments, which means the energy bills will go down for our residents. Finally, you know, it's critical that people understand they elect us. Absolutely, we govern the town. We do have a strong representatives and a senator at the state level to reach out to. So I have reached out to a couple of our members of the delegation, spoken to them a little bit more about it. Again, I understand it's a priority. There's so many bills before us, and to focus on that one bill when, again, we don't even know what is in depth with some of those other proposals before the legislature is a bit premature. So those are my 2 cents.
Thank you, Chris. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I first want to start off with just stating that this is obviously very complex, lots of details. I saw it on the agenda on Friday. To my knowledge, it was not going to be on the agenda for this resolution. I was on a family vacation, but I did spend a lot of time trying to do some of my due diligence. First off, this is a state issue. I think it's more of a Northeast issue that Connecticut's facing, and it's causing the ratepayers to pay that. Also want to state that I am concerned about the electric bills for all ratepayers and myself. This month, I have a 1,500 square foot ranch. My bill was almost $800. That's ridiculous. This resolution does not lower the cost of electricity in the state, and in my personal opinion, it's a political gimmick. Even Councilman Del Santo stated that this may not go anywhere. It was also stated on the dais that Senator Sampson, hasn't gotten a bill to pass into law before. Kind of makes me think back of why. I'd rather be working with our state delegation that delivers for Southington. Representative Poulos has delivered for Southington. And I would love to see what he wants to present to our town, and let's get behind something that's going to deliver for Southington. There's just so much here. Again, over 150 bills, should be doing our due diligence. You just can't, do this all at once. It stems from the Millstone project. To my understanding, that was a Republican-led project, not trying to blame either side, but let's look at that. That was a project that was done and funded because they were going to leave the state. And the state of Connecticut, we generate enough electricity for our state. If you really look at it, Massachusetts is an energy hog. They do not produce enough electricity. So Millstone is being subsidized by all the ratepayers, and where's our electricity going? Mass. This is a New England issue. We really need to make sure our neighboring states that aren't investing in energy is paying this bill. This is not ratepayers of Connecticut. We have infrastructure, we're supporting it, but why aren't we getting subsidized from Massachusetts for the energy that they need? If our state senator actually wanted to lower these electric bills, he would introduce legislation that would include this, in the New England market and include ISO New England and Eversource. ISO oversees New England. I recommend a lot of you to look at that to kind of see how that's kind of structured, a lot of info there. The Southington Town Council should also be spending our time on issues that is under the direct control of the council, like the underfunding of our public safety services and fire department with the shortage of our firefighters. We've seen that. That is action that the council could take. Signing a resolution and polarizing an issue is not going to deliver for our residents. We should be trying to find a resolution that is going to help our residents and not polarize the issue. I look forward to supporting a resolution that will actually help residents and not shift this cost. Moving this in this bill would move the cost to the general fund, and we wouldn't see where that goes. And with that being said, the town of Southington, Mr. Morrison stated, the green energy efforts and trying to subsidize those efforts. I don't think anybody gets an itemized bill in the town of Southington, but we subsidize the quantum biopower. We are under contract to buy electricity. Nobody knows that. Most residents don't, but we're subsidizing that with taxes. You're not getting an itemized bill, so nobody's coming to this podium going, why are we subsidizing them? It's not making sense. We could get electricity at a different rate. Mr. Lutz this evening stated, the new toy scenario. I have a 4.5-year-old, and I can't, going through, fun age, by the way. Halloween, he changed 3-4 different times what he wanted to be for Halloween. And we thought we nailed it. Guess what? Halloween rolled around. I was Woody from Toy Story. He wanted to be Woody. Even though before he wanted to be Lightning McQueen and all these other cartoon characters. Same thing with Christmas. Toys constantly changing. That's like this bill. You just don't jump on the first one. This bill doesn't save us money. And we really, as a council, should be focusing on local issues and working with our state delegation to deliver for our town. That is it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything they would like to speak? Jim?
I'd like to speak. I have a different approach to all of this. I don't see it as complicated, and I don't see it as Senator Sampson's only thing. There's nothing stopping Representative Poulos from proposing a situation that would help us out. And quite frankly, we get elected to represent the people of Southington, and the people of Southington are not happy with this charge. I remember several times watching the news where we would hear that CLMP and now Eversource was going to go for a rate hike, and they were going to Pura. And every time you hear they're going to go for a rate hike, they get their rate hike. So what is Pura? It's appointed by the governor. So I think this is a really simple thing. We need to throw stones. My analogy is we need to throw stones at the greenhouse. The plants will still grow with 4 or 5 broken windows, but when all the windows get broken, they'll have to fix the greenhouse. So again, I think this is a wonderful thing to send a message to Hartford that the citizens of Southington are not going to take this crap. And by the way, the governor got the money from the federal government to pay for those people that didn't have the money during COVID, and he chose to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
just
please.
very quickly. So I just want to, just for the record, I just want to put on the record that State Rep Poulos did sign on to a bill. It's proposed House Bill 5957, and that's concerning the combined public benefits charge, the restoration of electricity service after system service outages, promoting the usage of smart meters, and prohibiting tax assessment increases based on residential solar installations. So, just so that's on the record, he is on a bill.
Thank you, Val. Anybody else? Okay, I'd like to clarify a couple things myself as well. Before I do, I wanted to ask the town manager. We heard from a councilman that said that we are subsidizing quantum here in town. Can you clarify that for us? Are we actually we paying?
It's complicated. They're classified by the state of Connecticut as a renewable energy provider, so their footprint is not being taxed. Their biodigester is not being taxed. They do pay personal property taxes on all of their equipment. We do have a power purchase agreement with them that provides power, the equivalent of power, to approximately 5 schools in town. That rate is below the market rate that we're at, and that's due to a tax credit structure that's with the federal and state governments that we're the beneficiaries of.
Right. These are federal and state incentives that are given to Quantum to come here. We may have given an abatement at the time, years ago. I will say, though, the agreement to purchase power is at a reduced rate from market rate.
Correct.
So essentially what I've heard is that they're powering eight sites, according to their statistics, 8 sites in Southington at a significantly reduced price. to be here in Southington. So I think it might not be exactly as the councilman had described a little bit earlier. Okay, so
Complicated.
I wanted to, I know that, some people are saying that it's complicated and it's very difficult to have this discussion. I don't see it as being very complicated. I think that taunting Senator Sampson from a couple of the council members is inappropriate. To say that because Senator Sampson did not have legislation passed, or to question how many times he's gotten legislation passed for energy bills, I think is irrelevant. What does it matter how many a senator or a representative signs onto with their success rate? We have a bill before us that the senator has put forward, and it's simple. It's not complex. It's very simple. It says to eliminate public benefits. That's it. And why is it important? I've heard the arguments that, well, this is going to go away in April or May. Well, what's going away in April or May is the decision by the governor to not use the ARPA funds, the almost $300 million in ARPA funds that we had last year, that we could have paid down this debt and not had these additional charges put into public benefits, because public benefits, some of those charges existed, but they went up because we decided to forgive some of these the non-payers over COVID and not use the ARPA funds to clean that out. We had the money to eliminate it and not cause some of these increases. So I don't see it as complex. I see it as simple. It's eliminate public benefits. What is that going to do? I disagree with the gentleman who came earlier and said that that the legislation doesn't provide transparency. I actually think it's going to provide transparency. Today you have a bureaucratic organization called PURA that reports to the DEEP, has no accountability to the legislature. So what does that mean? Every time rate hikes come up, the majority in Connecticut go like this. We have nothing to do with this. This is PURA. So the 6-point bullet, one of the 6-point bullets says remove PURA from DEEP. Make these charges go to the legislators. Have your legislators be accountable for the decisions that they make. Yes, it's going to go into a bill. I disagree with Mr. Lutz who came in here and said that just because we eliminate public benefits, it doesn't mean that you can't still have it on the statement. You could change the name. It could say Connecticut legislator passed public benefits. They could still report what the Connecticut legislature decided to give for incentives or discounts or what have you. But it takes the decision out of PURA's hands. It puts it in the legislators' hands. It puts it in the people's hands. Everybody who's here today will have an opportunity to vote for the legislators that they feel are voting for bills and for costs that are affecting your everyday life. When we have PURA reporting to DEEP, we don't have that. And so I disagree that it makes it less transparent. I think it's going to make it more transparent. The notion that this has to go into a legislative package that's thousands of pages is also incorrect. That's a decision that the majority at the state capitol choose to do. And they choose to do that strategically so that things don't show up. But it doesn't mean that's the way it needs to be. I've heard a lot recently about the way the government is moving, and I saw some comments earlier today about the difference between government in the past years, and how something would go to the government, go to a decision maker, and they would push it to a subcommittee, and the subcommittee would study it, and then they'd have to talk to the department head, and the department head would have to take 3 or 4 weeks and look at something and send it back to the board for their next meeting, and then a month later they would redebate it, and here we are 12 months later. We were talking about this in this very room last year, this room, when we passed our last resolution asking the legislators to do something. And what happens is it goes round and round. And so when I hear people say that are in the majority, just wait, there's 150 other bills out there. What happens is there's chatter going on in the background about these 150, but nobody wants to pay attention to the simple bill that just says no to public benefits and to make transparent these things. The other thing is we can say no to public benefits and say eliminate public benefits and still listen to the other 150 bills. There's nothing that says that if you vote today on eliminating public benefits and putting it back in the hands of the legislature, that we can't listen to the other 150 bills. I mean, it's like, does the legislature only pass one bill a year? I mean, this is the argument that we're hearing. I think it doesn't pass muster. What I hear is that I don't want to support what the majority hasn't yet concluded that they want. I hear that we don't want to be brave, and that we don't want to stand up for our residents in Southington. I heard earlier about we should be spending time on our firefighters and safety, and I couldn't agree more. I want to say and clarify that we are doing that. I mentioned earlier I've spent countless hours. I've spent 15 to 20 hours with our firefighters, and I think it's clear that we stand with them, and that the Fire Commission has implemented a subcommittee to look at the situation and see what's needed for funding. We passed a grant funding last week for 4 firefighters, and we're going to continue to support them. So to bring them into this, I think is inappropriate. I think we know. I think everybody knows that we stand with the firefighters, and we're going to do what we can to make some improvements there where it's possible. Okay. With that, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Chair?
Sorry, can I have a clarification? It's a very small clarification. I'm not going to add to anything. Sorry, can I go ahead?
Yeah, we've already all talked about this.
This is something that's,
okay,
that's
go
not
ahead.
on this. I had the statement made that Senator Sampson hasn't passed any legislation. His name is on over 600 bills that have become law, okay? That have become. So, no. The comment about the energy legislation, the state is going in one direction, which is leading us towards the state we're in now, and Senator Sampson wants to go in the other. So, of course, the majority party hasn't, taken his views into account.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Last
Chair.
one, Jack. We're
Thank
going to
you.
wrap.
Well, I think it's important that if this is such an important issue, we debate it. That's what we're here as a council. One whack at it. This is, like I said, very, very detailed. I spent hours reading up on this. And what I hear, you state, you went around critiquing some of the comments that some of us made, and you state what I hear is it's a state issue. It's not a local issue. And for you to state it's inappropriate for me to mention the firefighters, that's a local issue. That's what this board, this council oversees, not the state issue.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that. The point is, I think we all 9 of us, could agree that we're concerned about the public benefits portion of the bill. That's not what's before us. It's about this particular resolution, and again, to Jack's point, there are people elected by Southington residents that do this work, and it is not the Southington Town Council.
Thank you, Chris. We heard that. We heard the argument on that.
And I heard what you said, Paul, but, I have every right to talk about my side too. So I'll also just liken it to, we know that an issue affecting residents, the price of eggs, we hear that all the time. Are we going to pass a resolution for a national issue now too? I mean, we need to focus on the role of the town council, which is our local issues, not state issues like this. We could talk to our legislators, which is what I've done.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, the reason being
Hold on,
is
Jack. I didn't recognize
issues-
you, Jack. Please, I'll open the floor for others. Is there anybody else? Everybody's been recognized twice. Anybody who hasn't been recognized twice want to speak? Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please. Who's going to
Okay.
sign the resolution?
Palmieri,
No.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
No.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
I got elected to throw the rock, yes.
Morrison,
Oh, yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, the motion passes 6-0. Item number 10, new business tax refunds.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Second.
We We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and I'm corrected. It's 6-3, not 6-0. My apologies.
Motion to adjourn into executive session, barring press and the public, but including the town
Manager and town attorney.
town attorney,
And also our,
and litigation counsel, Tom and Lydia.
okay.
Second.
Motion and a second from Jack. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thanks, everybody.